What's up, everyone? Thralls here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
Miller.
Rin!
And we're back with a retro review. We haven't done one of these in a minute. So we decided we wanted to do a retro review for a gloriously strange and awesome underground band. Kind of from the NOLA scene, kind of not. We're talking about Acid Bath. We're going to go over both of their studio releases and a little bit of the history behind the beginning and the end of this short-lived, strange, creepy, eerie, all sorts of bad adjectives, but in a great way, kind of band.
What you said about the doomy stuff, it's just bayou metal. That's what it is. Louisiana. I love Louisiana. New Orleans represent Saints, baby. But they're from actually a place called Houma, Louisiana, which is just southwest of New Orleans. And it is the bayou, my friends. Small town, 30,000 people. You look up the top 8 things to do. Look at trees in the swamp.
Number 8 is getting bit by a snake and dying.
Wrangle gators.
Wrangle gators. That's number 7.
Find your teeth.
It should be number 3?
You never will.
You won't.
Stick your ding dong in a fan boat.
Or a snapping turtle mouth. So this band essentially started off with 2 bands. At one point, there were 2 bands called Dark Carnival and Golgotha. Now, Dark Carnival featured Audie Petray on bass and Sammy Duet on guitars, and Golgotha featured Dax Riggs on vocals, Mike Sanchez on guitars, and drummer Jimmy Kyle. Now, these guys essentially kind of kept trading around members. I guess Golgotha had a rough time keeping bassists in there, and essentially everyone kind of gravitated towards Golgotha and started off as Golgotha and recorded 2 demos, but then decided they needed to change their name because apparently there was a band in Europe that also had the same name. And from there, Acid Bath was born. Now, their main influences, at least going into this, a lot of them were thrash metal, and you can definitely hear that in their work, but they also like stuff like Celtic Frost and Dark Throne, and a lot of Black Sabbath.
Totally get the doomy aspects of that. I mean, this band's really kind of all over the place. There's not really, you can say it's like death rock or something, but it's just Louisiana bayou sludge metal.
Sabbath worship.
Yeah, it's
worship.
Dark. It's kind of dark. I mean, that's kind of the thing in here when it comes down to subject matter that already makes the dark tinged music even darker.
It's covered in moss.
Yes. Peat moss. It grows on the outside of the song. Between 1992 and 1993, they recorded 3 demos, and their 3rd demo, Hymns of the Needle Freaks, again, dark subject matter, caught the attention of One Rotten Records, and they ended up signing with them. And on August 8th, 1994, they released their debut album, When the Kite String Pops. This album is really hard to describe, but we're going to try.
This is easier to describe than the second one, though.
Yeah, this album is all over the place. Mm-hmm. Now, first off, I learned something on this one. I did not realize that Spike Cassidy of DRI was the one that actually did the production on here. And the production is raw, very gritty sounding.
Very raw.
The vocals almost always seem to have some interesting filters on them, and I feel like there's multiple takes in there. And that is one thing that adds a lot to the music because Dax had a very odd singing delivery. It was kind of a warbled croon.
Warbly. Like, here's the pitch, and he's...
Yeah, he just kind of floats around that.
Dancing around it.
I know.
I'm on a moth.
Like a moth floating around a light. Like, I'm there, kind of.
Kind of like screams of the butterfly.
You told me where the line is. I don't give a shit. I'm going around it.
Yeah,
going around it.
I'm my own moth.
But I like it. I think it fits for this style of music.
Yeah.
It really does.
It's creepy.
Creepy
factor.
He has like these kind of alien, otherworldly vocals, and then you bring in the static shrieks, which kind of comparable to Tim Williams from Vision of Disorder. Like, they're very harsh. They are blood vessel bursting shrieks.
Not safe. No, you're doing some throat damage.
And you're adding like a filter on top of that, which makes it sound like TV static when he gets up high enough. And he is,
Yeah, those, when he gets up there, it's like very old, like underground punk, like very screamy type vocals.
Or like he's screaming through a CB radio.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Or an old bullhorn.
Yeah.
Right away, the opening track, The Blue. One of my favorite tracks. I think it may have been the first track I ever heard by this band. And, I was able to understand the lyrics, and I kind of wish I wasn't.
Across your face.
Yeah.
A line repeated in there is always stuck in my head, and that is, "Eat my dead cock." Says it twice just to make sure you knew what he said.
Was that? Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
I mean, he follows it up with "eat my cold shit," but I mean, it's kind of hard to really dull down the initial punch of "eat my dead cock." In terms of like these opening tracks, that and Tranquilize, these are very much in the realm of just what you think about in terms of sludge metal. It's dark, it's oppressive, but there's like a little bit of like
swing.
Yeah, the
got the
Sabbath
groove.
swing, the boogie.
Yeah.
Yep, that groove, that Bayou groove, man.
Yep. The song Tranquilize is kind of like what Alice in Chains would sound like if they were from New Orleans instead of Seattle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really good way
Yeah.
of putting that, man.
And maybe
Actually.
backed off on the heroin and added a little more whiskey.
Yeah, and some hallucinogenics.
I was gonna say
Yes.
hallucinogenics.
They just ate some things they found in the bayou.
Yeah. It's like, hey,
What's this?
This look good to me. Yeah, that look good to me too.
That look good, little put it with the crawfish.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I ate one of these flowers. I ate one of these mushrooms. I mean, I feel like $1,000,000, man. I'm
And then we
looking
put it on
good.
newspaper and we just ate the shit.
They put the mustard on it.
Y'all see that 300-foot tall bird?
I like the song Jezebel on this. I
Yes.
love the parts, the bass break in it. I'm a sucker for those bass breaks. And then,
Triplet chugs.
yeah, they come in with that 90s thrash groove stuff. And I like how then the bass kind of changes. And I dig the fact that they messed around with effects and experimented with this stuff.
Nasty guitar noise bendy.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, like there are elements of like 90s death metal, I would say in here. Like Jezebel for sure, but God Machine and What Color is Death? Pretty sure it's black. But yeah, you have these big like kind of obituary grooves. You think about like 90s death metal, like the more groove oriented stuff. And, you know, reminding me that they did really like Celtic Frost. And I mean, you know, that's sort of a big groovy but dark foreboding sound. And that really comes out on those tracks in particular.
And then like the Tubaba, or what is it? How do you say that?
Tuababo
Kumi. Tubabu Kumi, and like I mean, there's another one.
It's a
Cassie
Star Wars
eats
creature.
cockroaches. That's very crowbar-y.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of like crowbar I hear in it too, which I had to look to make sure that crowbar came out, and I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure crowbar is 91. Let me double check.
The samples they use on Cassie Eats Cockroaches too, with Blue Velvet and Clockwork Orange.
Don't you fucking look at me!
That. And I instantly knew that movie too as soon as he started yelling it.
Dennis Hopper.
One inhale. I was like, yep, that's Dennis. I can tell him inhaling.
Go back and watch that movie now after
That's, it's a wild.
It's a weird.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whatever you're about to say, yes.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Finger Paintings of the Insane starts with this really slow bass chug, like a killer stalking. It's really slow, it breathes. And then it gets into this heavy sludge stomp. Pantera-ish.
Oh, I love that song.
Yeah, and this is where that death rock
Yeah.
like if you death rock in this moment for this band is very appropriate.
The kick and chug patterns are awesome.
Oh,
and it sounds
yeah.
like the guitars just run straight into the board.
Yeah.
Just no breathing. It's just...
It's a nasty tone.
Yes.
Like listening to it like over and over again, because I mean I've been listening to this album for years now. It has like it's kind of warm and fuzzy, but there's also like kind of this just grating kind of nasty. Like it has like a 90s sound to it.
Yeah, for
Like you think about 90s heavy guitars, and this is it. It's just a massive sounding guitar tone. Also, interesting bits on here with softer melodies. Now, softer melodies would come up a little bit later in the subsequent release, but this one actually brought out two pretty clean songs, I would say. Bones of Baby Dolls, which I was horrified to find out they had bones, and Screams of the Butterfly. Both of these songs are predominantly all clean guitar work, all sung.
A lot of 12 strings going.
Crooned.
Scream of the Butterfly is haunting and beautiful. It's neat, slightly jazzy. The acoustics are great. There's a little acoustic melody that's just so good. The basic song structure is pretty much the same, but the drummer takes it in different places. He plays pretty much a different drum beat each verse, each chorus. But it's just slightly different. And it adds so much to the overall song.
It does. Like the fact that you would think of the song as like, I don't know, like somewhere between a ballad and a dirge. I mean, it's not pretty like a ballad should be, unless, you know, Kyle didn't know what the word ballad meant.
Yeah.
That it, like, it means attack, it's like, punch shit. I'm like, no.
Prepare for that.
Like, oh, you got a 12-string acoustic. Okay.
Like, no. But yeah, he's going all over the place. Like, you even have like a double bass, like kind of like groovy obituary stomp in there. Yeah, and like, but they're all playing acoustic guitars. I get to see the rest of the band looking back, and I was like, you know what song we're playing? Like,
I mean, he's on the one and the.
He's got it.
Yeah. Oh, he's on it. He's a very good drummer.
You know this isn't the metal song. Like, it's fine. But this album is wild, and it's long too. Like, this is over an hour worth of music, and it's kind of unpredictable. Like,
It's
you
very
really
unpredictable.
don't know where these songs are going to go, and that was kind of the allure, because this band just all of a sudden would come out with something completely different from the next track.
And the vocals constantly shift between cleans and horrifying screams, which again keeps you like,
Yeah. Odd layering and weird
Yep.
filters.
Yep. Watery effects on the bass, watery effects on the vocals.
Throw in a weird punk track like Cheap Vodka, which, I mean, that is like probably the most punk thing on here.
Yeah.
And generally when, you know, we were talking about I Hate God and such like that, how when it's fast, it's more punk fast, not metal fast. That's another good example of Cheap Vodka.
Yep.
I've always been fond of this album just because even in the world of sludge metal, this is really unique and ambitious. And while it's kind of like all over the place and it's kind of hard to get a read on the band, it's awesome. And I mean, overall, this is a retro review, and of course we're signing ratings. I'm gonna give this 4.5 stars. I've always loved this album. It's strange. It's as fucked up as the album cover, which I guess not everyone in the band was on board with, but it's pretty endearing now.
Hey, Gacy is a pain.
Yeah. This is another reason why people are horrified of clowns. Well, not this album, but Gacy. But yeah, this album, again, all over the place, and it kind of branched out sludge metal a bit. Like sludge metal, you thought of like Crowbar and I Hate God. This took it even further and in like different directions and brought in different influences. And I mean, I think it's stood the test of time as far as, you know, underground worship. People love this album, me included.
I'm gonna also go with a 4.5. From the album cover self-portrait of Pogo the Clown by John Wayne Gacy to Cassie Eats Cockroaches. It's a journey. It's disturbing and beautiful and heavy and soft, and it's a nice warm bath in acid.
It's a David Lynch film.
It is kind of like a sonic southern David Lynch film. It's like like a crab boil and then you found a human ear.
You gonna eat that ear?
You gonna eat that ear right there? Ear of corn? No, ear of perch.
It's seasoned.
It's got that blackened Cajun.
Yeah, put some paprika on it.
Marijuana. Make a roux. As bad as good. Dip your toes in it.
Yeah.
Burn off your phalange.
And I'm gonna go 4 out of 5. I do love this album. It's doomy, sludgy, thrashy. It's like everything I like about metal. And even the slower stuff is something I dig. I dig his voice. I like the fact that he's kind of off a little bit. I dig it. I like the distortion of the voice. I dig this album. 4 out of 5.
It's like a nice jambalaya. So literally while they were touring on When the Kite Streak Pops, that they were actually writing the follow-up, and this follow-up would be a little bit different. They went back to the studio in 1996, and this time they tapped the gentleman that did their third demo, Keith Falgout, and on November 12th, 1996, they released Pagan Terrorism Tactics. Now, this one also had some fun album cover art. This was actually done by Kevorkian, Dr. Death. They had a bit of a theme, and honestly, I do love this cover.
It's a great painting.
It makes a hell of a statement.
Yeah, it does.
Now, again, this one is a little bit different. They were kind of expanding a little bit more with, I don't know if I'd call it accessibility.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, they were tapping into that grunge thing that was happening, that grunge Alice in Chains and all that was coming out. But they were trying to tap into that.
Dark.
But they were just really dark, yeah.
Dark.
I mean, the lyrical themes definitely carried over. I mean, Pagan Love Song is essentially about a long hallucinogenic journey.
Yeah, they were in Florida.
Yeah.
On Dura flowers. I guess it's called Angel's Trumpets.
3 days.
3-day trip.
Oh, what a nightmare.
Yeah, I don't know if I would be down for that.
But like right away, instead of like opening up like the Blue, which is very heavy, very dark, this is kind of like a bit of a boogie, and that's kind of the thing on this album.
Got a COC feel.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a little in there too. And when it came down to the harsh vocals, they were kind of more shared this time. This time it was not just Dax doing it, it was Sammy in there too. Now Sammy was doing backup vocals in the first one too, but when it came down to his vocals, they were way more prominent. You could definitely tell when Sammy was shrieking because it's dry and there might be blood, but he was doing a majority of the heavier stuff, and I think at this point this was kind of where there was a bit of a divide in terms of style, because Dax definitely wanted to write some stuff that was more accessible, and you definitely hear it in songs like Venus Blue and Bleed Me an Ocean, which Venus Blue may have been a little bit of a stretch just because that had what could have been a really, really powerful chorus, but I don't think that was in Dax's register to really...
Yeah, it was slightly off-key.
No, but...
And this was way before auto-tune, so I guess that's as good as it got. I don't know.
But I mean, Dax did improve on this one.
Yes, it's less warbly, his vocals. He's more on the pitch than he's not.
And I mean, the rest of the song is really good, and when he's singing within his range, he's doing a really good job in this, and I think there are less effects on his voice this time. There are actual moments where like, oh wait, no, that's him.
Pretty clean.
And the song New Death Sensation.
A sorrowful lullaby.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I think there's like movie music sound designers that are sleeping on this, because the transition part from the verse into that part where the drums really kick in and everything grooves. I mean, that's a perfect for a movie or a show scene where, you know, you have your main character, your protagonist, who's in a situation they need to get out of, they need to get away, and you know, they're angry, they're sad, upset. I mean, you get those emotions from the sound of this, and you know, you get a close up on the shoe, the tie in the shoe, and then the camera pan to the bathroom doorway, and then you're looking in the mirror, one last final check before they're on their journey, and then that sample comes in right before the kick drum. They're out the door, camera come in, you meet in the middle, the kick drum comes in, the shot comes up, and they're going down, because everyone walks in the middle of the fucking road in movies. It's perfect. If you listen to this song and picture that in your mind, I'm sure I'm not the only idiot that thinks that.
He wrote an entire script. Schumacher's dead.
So's the girl.
I mean, as you guys know, I'm very visual in my music and stuff, and I totally pictured that, being into videographer and stuff and making that sort of stuff. That's immediately what I pictured.
Honestly, what I thought of was, man, this came out in '96, and so did the Crow City of Angels. This could have been on the soundtrack and been perfect. Actually, it probably would have sounded more like stuff that would have been on the original Crow soundtrack, which is an absolute banger.
Which is a much better movie.
It's very gothy and industrial-ish, but I don't know. Again, like, not a ballad, more a dirge. And even when it comes down to ballads, their ballads aren't sweet and nice.
They're somber and depressing a little bit, and just the way his vocals are too, they're very depressing in those songs.
He's dreary.
But like Dead Girl, into that was the first song I ever heard by this band. And
that's a weird place to start.
Oh, I know. And I loved the song, and I really got into it. And to my pleasure, later I found out that they make other shit that I'm way more into. You know, I was into grunge and punk and stuff like that at the time when I heard about these guys. And while I appreciated songs like Dead Girl and, you know, stuff like that, I really loved that just thrashy, punky stuff. And when I found out that they did that, I was like, wow, this is like the perfect band for me.
Dead Girl's got a Chris Cornell kind of vibe.
It does.
Seasons.
It does.
And I picture a campfire, maybe a pyre full of people.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's corpses. Yes. There's got to be corpses. At least one.
The song Grave Flower. I don't understand why that wasn't a hit. It's got a really cool harmonic riff part. The vocals, the chorus hits you. It's a very catchy chorus. It's just dark. That's probably the only reason why, well, we can't put that on the radio. People will not enjoy themselves on their way to work.
Honestly, I got that feeling almost all throughout this, especially like Oblivion Ocean. Oblivion Ocean could have been a hit single too, like a solid rocker.
That had a kind of a Life of Agony sort of vibe.
But because they kept their subject matter so specifically fucked up.
Yeah.
You know, and the fact that you could understand them clearly.
Yeah.
It's not gonna...
It's not marketable.
Nope, it's not marketable.
Nope.
Speaking of not marketable, the track Old Skin. It scares me.
It does.
It's creepy as
It's like a spoken word beat poet from hell, smoking toenails and
Eating the brain.
eating the brain of the eyes of the shaman, and
It's like...
it means something. Yes? Yes! Yes! Command me, Lord! Where was it?
Carpathian kitten loss, apparently.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know, like listening to Hearsay by Nine Inch Nails. You kind of feel like weird listening to it. You're like, I don't know if I should maybe I should skip this.
Oh, but it got weirder because there's a nice little bonus track at the end called Ode to the Pagan. It's not really listed.
This
but
also
it's
scares
there.
me.
It scares me more.
night.
It scares me more.
Fingered slowly like the first time you came, I smear semen on the walls of my impression.
Imagine going down your fan boat or whatever in the bayou and you hear that.
Hear that coming
Like,
out
all
of
right, well, it's nice here. I'm going to get on the
coming
next
out of
plane
the
to
willow
Detroit.
trees.
Christian propaganda and dog semen.
Yes,
Okay.
command me, Lord!
Oh, there it is again.
I don't know. I don't know what happened.
But overall, I like this album. It's a strange follow-up. And this one is, I don't know, maybe like a bit of an identity crisis because you still have really heavy tracks in here. New Corpse and 13 Fingers sound like old Acid Bath. And
Screechy and
vile, even some black metal influence in there. But when it comes down to most of it, it's accessible, but not.
yeah.
And I don't know, like there's just kind of like an island they kind of put themselves on, being too weird for mainstream, and then you're not as heavy as your last album,
Right.
so meh.
Yeah, and they tried. I mean, like, talk about Venus Blue again, and that was, you could tell they were trying to make a hit. And honestly, like, Stone Sour would, if they did a cover of this, Stone Sour would do a killer cover of Venus Blue.
Actually, it'd probably be oddly fitting. But overall, I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars. I like this album. I like the fact that they branched out, but it kind of came out a little uneven. And even when it comes down to like some of the production, some of the songs sound mixed very differently than others. But I like the fact that Dax stepped up and did a lot more vocal work that I think that was more accessible. And maybe reached too far in some spots. And I mean, it still had great songs. It was just vastly different than the first album, which I was already in love with. So yeah, this is a really good follow-up. It's just, not the same as the first one. And I mean, I love it, just not as much. That's pretty much it.
I'm on the same page. 3.5. It's good, but not as good as the first. It's hard telling where they would have went from here. Would they have gotten heavier? Would they have gotten more commercially? It's hard to say, but this is still a great listen. The Kevorkian cover is fantastic.
I love it.
Yeah, it fits in the whole vibe, and it fingers you slowly. I guess.
Very slowly.
Dog semen.
All right, I'm going to go with another 4 out of 5. And I really see these albums as kind of like just the whole kit and caboodle. Honestly, I jam Pagan more. I find myself jamming that more. I hadn't listened to Kite String in a while before this. So, and that may be because this was like this was the first album I had by them, and I listened to it more. So nostalgia a little bit maybe. But I kind of see them as one entity.
Pretty much.
So
It's over 2 hours of music.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, it's a good listen to. It really is.
Yep.
I enjoy Acid Bath. And actually, it was my old singer, Brian Yant, who led me on to Acid Bath. He was in a band called Kindergeidel before he joined my band, Soul Remedy. And he led me to him. And I was like, man, this is great. I love that stuff.
So what happened to this band? Well, unfortunately, this ends in tragedy. Now, in December of 96, I believe they played their last show, and I believe it was at Dimebag Darrell's club. And they were kind of getting ready to possibly work on another album. There was a little bit of a sort of bickering in terms of musical direction. But sadly, in 1997, Audie and his parents both died in a drunk driver accident.
They weren't drunk.
They weren't drunk. They were hit by a drunk driver and died, and that's fucking horrible. Only his little brother survived. And Audie was, I would say, kind of the glue that kept that band together. Because between, Sammy and Dax, they both had very different musical outlooks. And Audie was sort of the bridge between the two because he liked Sammy's more heavy direction, but he also liked Dax's more soulful acoustic stuff too. Without Audie there, and the fact that he was a good friend to all of them, they just did not see themselves as continuing as Acid Bath, so they broke up pretty much not long after. Now, there is sort of a argument as to whether or not they would have broken up anyway, because the friction between, namely Dax and the rest of the band in terms of musical direction was definitely there. And you could kind of hear Pagan Terrorism Tactics as a bit of a battlefield album, because one style was sort of overtaking another style, but you would still hear pockmarks of defiance in terms of like the heavier stuff that Sammy was definitely writing on there. Yeah. And well, they definitely had some issues with their label, Rotten Records, which I would have to say is a rotten label.
Pricks.
Yeah. If you've been looking for Acid Bath albums to stream, you probably have had horrible luck up until last year, because that was finally when they were released on Spotify. Now, we found out that's not on all formats, though.
Not on Google.
It wasn't on Google.
YouTube Music or whatever the hell they call it.
Yeah. So, I mean, for a while there, people were trying to upload this album, and I believe they were getting hit with copyright and having it taken down pretty damn quickly.
Rotten pricks.
Yeah. Now, the rest of the members did go out and do a lot of different things. Sammy, notably...
Sammy Satan.
Sammy Satan. He is a Satanist, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He decided to join Crowbar for a while and was there from 98 to 2001. He was on Oddfellows Rest, Equilibrium, and Sonic Excess in his purest form, one of my favorites.
Great record.
Yes, sir.
And then went on to form a really awesome band called Goat Whore. And we might be familiar with them. We might have seen them multiple times. And pretty much just embracing black and thrash, and he's been ripping his way through that pretty much ever since.
Less groove, more.
Now, Dax went on to do more underground rock projects, namely Agents of Oblivion, which he did with Mike Sanchez, also from Acid Bath. And
self-titled.
He did a self-titled one, and then he did Dead Boy and the Elephant Men, which was, I guess, what he called his acoustic swamp rock or something like that. And he's been doing solo stuff, too. And granted, he's been approached about, going back and doing the Acid Bath stuff, but he honestly doesn't have much of a feel for that music anymore. And, I mean, I kind of get it. Now, Jimmy Kyle, I believe, pretty much, kind of left music altogether, and...
I didn't see anything with him on
it. No, I think he became a missionary. That's at least the rumor. But there was a period where they were considering reuniting, maybe doing some tribute shows. And Jimmy apparently actually reached out and went to see if Corey Taylor would be available to actually sing on an Acid Bath tribute.
So my Stone Sour comment makes sense then.
It totally does. That's why I waited until now. But obviously that didn't come to any fruition. And I mean, granted, there were some rumors that there was a third Acid Bath album out there. But Sammy pretty much quickly dispelled that as no, we kind of were just jamming and hanging out, and we kind of recorded it, but we didn't record anything this was just a jam session. It was noodling and kind of getting back together, and it does not constitute an album or new music really in any sense. It's just, hey, hanging out with the guys, and we had musical instruments.
Yes.
And we hit record.
Yeah.
But I mean, overall, this band has at least a legacy in the underground. They were a strange act that kind of didn't fit in anywhere, but it fit in with people who just like strange underground music, and that's Acid Bath. That is Acid Bath to a T. Even the more accessible moments, they made sure to throw in all sorts of strange shit in there just to make sure it wasn't that accessible.
I feel maybe they were a band that was ahead of their time, or maybe they were a band at the right time, at the right place, and for some reason, not that many people noticed.
Rotten Records.
And if that's the case, that's a damn shame, because they are a damn fine musical outfit.
So if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. Also, we're on Patreon now. So there will be a link below in the description if you'd like to help us out there and jump on there. We will entertain you with outtakes and weird videos and other strange pictures of us with dumb expressions. Podcasts. We are working on more podcasts. We already have, I believe, 3 up there. And I don't know, plenty of other stuff. We just want to make sure you get your bang for your buck with that. So with that, I thank you all very much, and we will catch you later.